Good morning, everyone. My name is Miriam Brady, and I'm speaking to you this morning from Dublin in Ireland. And I'm from the Irish Yoga Association, who, along with 22 other federations throughout Europe, form the membership of the European Union of Yoga, which was founded in 1971. These federations joined the EUI to be part of the most experienced professional yoga group in Europe, dedicated to the promotion of yoga. Your EUI have set the standards for yoga teacher training in Europe with the minimum of 500 hours, contact hours, training over 4 years. And each August, there's a week-long congress held in Zinal, up in the Swiss Alps. And the theme for 2025 Congress is Abhyasa and Viraga, two pillars of yoga transformation. And with the stunning scenery in Zinal and the purest of air and great yoga, it's really worth a visit. Currently, the EUI is running a series of free online events around the themes as part of the spirituality program. There's been 4 themes: Abhyasa and Viraga, yoga and mental health, Dharma, karma, and these lectures and workshops and meditations are given by yoga teachers, researchers, and scientists from various EUI member countries. This morning's presentation is part of the spirituality program. It has been running very successfully since January 23, and there will be further presentations in different languages running until next June. And all of these talks are part of a non-profit EUI program. You can help continue this work by donating to the EUI on their website, europeanyoga.org, and finding the donation button in the menu bar. In a moment, I will introduce you to today's speaker, Marlene Mullen. But before I do, I'd like to remind you these Zoom sessions are automatically recorded in the cloud, and there will be time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So may I please ask you to put your questions in the chat box. And at this moment, may I also ask you to mute yourselves if you're not already. So now it is my privilege to introduce you to Marlene Mullen, who's from Belgium, but is one of us here in Ireland. She's been here quite a number of years. Her presentation is entitled Karma, a Question of Agency. So good morning, Marlene, and welcome.
Hi, Miriam, and thank you very much for the introduction. Before I start this presentation, Karma, a question of agency, I would like to say the people that have inspired me, right, that I've directly drawn information from, so that everybody knows what my sources are. Very much the How to Know God by Christopher Isherwood, the translation, Raja Yoga from Swami Vivekananda, Krishnamurti, the second Krishnamurti reader, and then obviously YouTube videos by Swami Sarvapriyananda. These are the people that, these are my main sources. There are others, but they are the main ones. Okay. So the title, Karma, a question of agency, immediately produces and highlights the ambiguity prominent in our daily life. Yeah, Miriam said to me, agency, Marlene, what's that? So apart from the fact that the notion of karma is itself open to interpretation, the word agere means to do or to manage. So what does it mean for a person to have agency? Agency is the sense of control that you feel you have in your life. Your capacity to influence your own thoughts and behavior, and to have faith in your ability to handle a wide range of tasks and situations. So your sense of agency helps you to be psychologically stable yet flexible in the face of conflict or change. Agency requires a notion of free will, or at the very minimum, the possibility of choice. Even though we all act as if we have choice, our choices are forced choices, determined by our life circumstances, or, if you subscribe to astrology, determined by our birth chart. Everyone's birth chart tells one's life story, what your soul came to learn, to do, or to become in this incarnation. If the will was truly free, it would necessarily have to escape in some way the notion of cause and effect, which is the very cornerstone of the concept of karma. We are either irrevocably caught up in the web of dependent origination, or we do have some way of interfering in this cycle of exercising our will. This exercise of will would then be considered a true decision, a true choice. In everyday life, we are, however, always dealing with forced choices. Our desired options are not necessarily available in the moments that we need to make the choice. Do you know what I forgot? I forgot to share my screen. There. Can I still do that? Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so you have the screen now, you right? And
Yeah.
you have the screen and you can see me, Miriam?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
I cannot see the screen, Marlene.
Okay.
So you did you click on the green button
Okay.
to share, and then on the once you have the screen with your documents, you have to click on the blue button.
Okay, share. Share again.
Okay, it's good.
Yeah, you got it.
Fine.
Right. All right. So from the beginning and slideshow. So that was the question of karma, and that is the meaning of the word agere, and that's where we are. So in everyday life, as I said, we are, however, always dealing with forced choices. Our desired options are not necessarily available in the moments that we need to make the choice. All choices imply the loss of all other available choices. Making a choice then implies the painful consideration of which price we are willing to pay for the loss of all other choices. These forced choices always lead to frustration because the desired result is not available, echoing the fundamental Buddhist assertion that ultimately existence cannot satisfy. It is important to note that the notion of free will ranks among the 5 unsolved problems in philosophy, according to the Oxford University Press blog. So in that blog, what it says, these things are unsolved in philosophy. Do we really have free will? The most fundamental question of all, who am I? Can we know anything at all? And how do we know that what we know is true? What is death? And what would global justice look like, which is directly related to the question of how should we live. The question of karma fundamentally addresses the question of how should we live. And this question occupies all of us. However, the answer to this question is not straightforward. What I will try to do is to answer this question of how should we live in bite-sized pieces. But first I want to draw your attention to something to me very startling that Swami Vivekananda says in his book on Raja Yoga. He says something very startling about being a human being. And that's the quote on page 42. He says, "The human body is the greatest in the universe, and a human being is the greatest being. Man is higher than all animals, than all angels. None is greater than man. Even the devas, the gods, will have to come down again and attain salvation through a human body. Man alone attains to perfection, not even the devas. The angels nor the devas can attain to direct freedom without human birth." Now, I thought that was majorly startling. But the Buddhist teachings corroborate this statement and consider a human birth as the most fortunate and precious, because the human birth, according to them, is the best suited for the study and practice of Dharma. The Upanishads corroborate that statement as well. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, I can't pronounce that, it says, and that's the second quote on the screen, "Ye children of immortality, of immortal bliss, even those who live in the highest sphere, the way is found. There is a way out of all this darkness, and that is by perceiving him who is beyond all darkness. There is no other way." Now, Vivekananda's quote, this quote is explicit. The quote not only draws attention to the preciousness of the human birth, but also to the goal of attaining a human birth. The goal of a human birth, he says there directly, he says the goal of a human birth is direct freedom, full stop. This adjective, direct, draws attention that the goal is not freedom from anything. It's not freedom from experiencing, but freedom, full stop. In other words, as I said, not freedom from experiencing, but freedom. How do we understand that? So what does the law of karma say? The law of karma is very simple. Actions have consequences. The law of karma is something profound that we should try to understand. All the schools of Hinduism and Buddhism, regardless of other differences, accept the law of karma, except the materialistic school, the Sarvaka school, which is another of the Hindu philosophies. In short, the law of karma entails that actions have consequences. If you do something, you will have results. It is common sense and reflects the third law of Newton. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In Advaita Vedanta, the Advaita Vedanta philosophical position is that Brahman experiences itself through the veil of Maya and experiences itself first as mind, thoughts, and then a body with a world in front, the one appearing as many. The external world is but a gross form of the internal or subtle form. The finer is always the cause, the grosser the effect, and the external world is the effect, the internal world the cause. So maybe now it is helpful to include a definition of Brahman. Swami Vivekananda says this. This is in his book on Raja Yoga. This is a definition. The self is beyond all thought, one without birth or death, whom the sword cannot pierce or the fire burn, whom the air cannot dry or the water melt, the beginningless and endless, the immovable, the intangible, the omniscient, the omnipresent being, that it was neither body nor the mind, but beyond them all. So that's one definition there. The definition that we are more familiar with is Sat Chitananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. So what is the problem in relation to karma? The problem is that we do not know who we are. Ignorance, in this case, does not refer to the lack of traditional education. It is much more profound. We do not know who we are. Because there is ignorance of our identity as Brahman, this being, in every incarnation, there is an experience of loss. In every incarnation, there is an experience of loss. We no longer know who we are. And with this loss of knowing who we are, comes the birth of desire with its attachments and aversions. Therefore, this body-mind starts engaging. Therefore, this body-mind starts engaging in action to either get something or to try and avoid something. And as the jiva, or the individual being, the individual sentient being, engages in action, it sets in motion the law of karma. So when Brahman, as embodied being, engages in action, it becomes caught, if not to say trapped, in the law of karma. Its own actions generate experiences that produce either merit, resulting in happiness, or demerit, resulting in suffering. However, there are complications, and I have identified 4, I'm sure there is more, but I've identified 4, and I will explain, or at least engage with them separately, right? But I'll first read them. First complication, that however we may try, there cannot be any action which is perfectly pure or which is perfectly impure, taking purity and impurity in the sense of injury and non-injury. That's also directly from Swami Vivekananda. 2, also by Vivekananda, we are affected by other people's thoughts and actions. 3, existence is radically unsatisfying but necessary. And 4, there is a time lag. There is a time lag between intent and awareness, and this time lag between intent and awareness is demonstrated both in Raja Yoga and in quantum physics. So the first complication, that howsoever we may try, there cannot be any action which is perfectly pure or any action which is perfectly impure, taking purity and impurity in the sense of injury and non-injury. So Vivekananda puts it this way. Good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. But whoso wears the form must wear the chain. Too true, but far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Know thou art that, Sannyasin bold, say Om Tat Sat Om. The difficult thing to get across or to get one's head around is that there does not exist a purely good action nor a purely bad action. We cannot breed or live without injuring others. That's very radical. We cannot breed or live without injuring others. Every bit of food we eat is taking away from another's life. Life eats life. Our very lives are crowding out other lives as our careless domination on this planet amply shows. So that being the case, it naturally follows that perfection can never be attained by work. I quote Vivekananda again. The result of every work is mixed with good and evil. There is no work, there is no good work that has not a touch of evil in it. Like smoke around a fire, like some evil always clings to work. We may work through all eternity, but there will be no way out of this intricate maze. You may work on and on and on. There will be no end to this inevitable association of good and evil in the results of work. Swami Vivekananda then says, even though this is true, we should engage in such works as brings the largest amount of good and the smallest amount of evil. The other point as well that we have to entertain simultaneously, that Vedanta also says that we are pure and perfect, that there is a state beyond good and evil, and that is our own nature. It is even higher than good. Good is only a lesser differentiation than evil. So, according to Karma Yoga, the action that we have done cannot be destroyed until it has borne its fruit. The action that we have done cannot be destroyed until it has borne its fruit. No power in nature can stop it from yielding its results. If I do an evil action, I must suffer for it. There is no power in this universe to stop or stay it. Similarly, if I do a good action, there is no power in the universe which can stop its bearing good results. The cause must have its effects. Nothing can prevent these actions of ours. Nothing can prevent or restrain it. And now comes a very fine and serious question about Karma Yoga. Namely, that these actions of ours, both good and evil, are intimately connected with each other. we cannot put a line of demarcation and say, well, this part is entirely good and this part entirely evil. There is no action which does not bear good and evil fruits at the same time. The law of karma is inextricably connected to the notion of reincarnation. We happen to plan a lot for our lives, but when we look back at our lives, we notice that a lot has happened without our planning. It just happened. What we are getting in this life, and this is from Swami Sarvapriyananda, what we are getting in this life is a result of our past lives. What we have done in past lives is giving results in this life. The body we have in this life is the result of past karma, and this is the case also for our future lives. So from the idea of karma, the idea of birth and rebirth originates. Because we have past karma, we have to be born to get the results of that, and because we generate new karma in this life, it will lead to future lives. The law of karma thus proposes the notion of agency and the notion of space-time at the same time. Something happens to you now because something has happened before. Now here, and this is an aside, here's an interesting aside. Just as the spiritual teachings propose that the law of karma, that beyond the law of karma, there is the vast. The vast is another definition of Brahman, and I think it's an excellent definition. So beyond the law of karma, there is the vast Brahman. According to Brian Cox, and Brian Cox is a quantum physicist, according to Brian Cox, quantum physics has expanded its understanding of space-time. He explains that it is difficult to answer the question of what space actually is. In 1905, Albert Einstein proposed a theory that space-time are interwoven and form the fabric of our universe. Today, we suspect that space-time, and this is according to Brian Cox, today we suspect that space-time emerges from something deeper, which is what is now called quantum entanglement. There is a description of our universe as just bits of information called qubits, quantum bits of information that are entangled together in some sort of network. But the interesting thing is that space-time does not exist in that network. Space-time emerges from that network, the one appearing as many. I felt there was some interesting relation there. The second complication, that other people's thoughts and actions affect us. We are affected by other people's thoughts and actions. The forces of good and evil gather strength from outside. This is, to me, very important. The forces of good and evil gather strength from outside. Vivekananda, again, in his book on Raja Yoga, explains that in doing good, we do good to ourselves and to others as well. In doing bad, we do bad to ourselves and to others as well. But more to the point, like all other forces in men, these forces of good and evil also gather strength from outside. Life itself is in a continuous struggle. Life itself is in a state of continuous struggle between ourselves and everything outside. Every moment we are fighting actually with our external nature. If we are defeated, our life has to go. So if we lose the battle with our external environment, we die. It is, for instance, a continuous struggle for food and air. If food and air fails, we die. Life is not a simple and smoothly flowing thing. It is a compound effect. And this complex struggle between something inside and the external world is what we call life. It is clear that when this struggle ceases, there will be an end of life. Now, Swami Sarvapriyananda explains it as follows. All minds that have the same tension will be equally affected by the same thought. All minds that have the same tension will be equally affected by the same thought. Of course, this influence of thought on mind will vary according to distance and other causes. But the mind is always open to affection. Suppose I'm doing an evil act. My mind is in a certain state of vibration, and all the minds in the universe which are in a similar state have the possibility of being affected by the vibration of my mind. So when I'm doing a good action, my mind is in another state of vibration, and all minds similarly strong have the possibility of being affected by my mind. And this power of mind upon mind is more or less according to the force of tension, whether the force of tension is greater or less. I hope that's clear, right? So the frequency that I send out my thoughts on will be received by people on the same frequency. Their thoughts gather strength, and that strength is then returned to my mind on that frequency. Following this simile further, it is quite possible that just as light waves may travel for millions of years before they reach any object, so thought waves may also travel hundreds of years before they meet an object with which they vibrate in unison. It is quite possible, therefore, that this atmosphere of ours is full of such thought pulsations, both good and evil. Every thought projected from every brain goes on pulsating as it were, until it meets a fit object that will receive it. Any mind which is open to receive some of these impulses will take them immediately. So when a man is doing evil actions, he has brought to his mind a certain state of tension and all the waves which correspond to that state of tension, and which may be said to be already in the atmosphere, and they will struggle to enter into his mind. That is why an evildoer generally goes on to do more and more evil. His actions become intensified. Such will also be the case with the doer of good. He will open himself to all the good waves that are in the atmosphere, and his good actions also will become intensified. We run, therefore, and this is on the screen, we run, therefore, a twofold danger in doing evil. First, we open ourselves to all the evil influences surrounding us. And secondly, we create evil which affects others, maybe hundreds of years hence. In doing evil, we injure ourselves and others also. In doing good, we do good to ourselves and to others as well. And like all other forces in men, these forces of good and evil gather strength from outside. Now, this also caught my attention when I read it in Raja Yoga. According to Vivekananda, there are 4 classes of men in this world. And he says, first, there are the God men, whose self-abnegation is complete, who do only good to others, even at the sacrifice of their own lives. They are the highest of men. If there are 100 of such in any country, that country need never despair. But there are, unfortunately, too few. The second class of men is that there are good men who do good to others as long as it does not injure themselves. And then there is a third class who, to do good to themselves, injure others. And then he says, there is the fourth class, and he says, it is said by a Sanskrit poet, but he didn't say who it was. It is said by a Sanskrit poet that there is a fourth, unnameable class of people who injure others merely for injury's sake. Just as there are at one pole of existence the highest good men who do good for the sake of doing good, so at the other pole there are others who injure others just for the sake of injury. They don't gain anything thereby, but it is in their nature to do evil. And then we're coming to the next complication that I identified earlier on. Existence is radically unsatisfying, but necessary. So the whole dance of existence is ultimately doomed. According to the Buddha, existence cannot satisfy. It is indeed precisely the definition of suffering in Buddhism. We don't get what we do want. We do get what we don't want. And even if we do get what we want, we stand to lose it because things are impermanent. So if this situation wasn't dire enough, Vivekananda asks the following existential question in his introduction to his translation and commentary on the Yoga Sutras. He states that there is a consensus on the statement that we are the outcome and manifestation of an absolute condition, back of our present relative condition, and are going forward to return to that absolute condition. This being granted, he says, the question is, which is better, the absolute or this state? Is going back to God the higher state or not? And even though Vivekananda says that God, the absolute, is the preferred and highest state, he also claims that torturing ourselves or condemning the world is not the way to get out. He also says that whether we will it or not, we shall have to return to our origin, which is called God or the Absolute. We all came from God, and we are all bound to go back to God. Quote, from whom this universe comes out, in whom all that is born lives, and to whom all returns. We are one ocean of undivided consciousness. So, the absolute or this state. So why work at all? Because we are driven by our quest for truth and happiness. So why work at all? Because we remain driven by our quest for truth and by our quest for happiness. Man wants truth, wants to experience truth for himself. And then the next complication, the time lag. The time lag between intent and awareness, demonstrated by both Raja Yoga and quantum physics. And now I'm going back to one of my favorite Netflix series, The Big Bang Theory, and I hope loads of you watch it as well. Amy and Sheldon are in conversation in series 10, episode 19. And I'm quoting this bit, or at least I'm referring to this bit because she's talking about the time lag, right? Amy is studying the time lag between intent and awareness, series 10, episode 19, and how it applies to the measurement problem in quantum mechanics. Amy is doing some experiments to show that the signal to move a muscle occurs before you even have decided to move it. So she's doing these experiments to pinpoint where consciousness resides in the brain. She's trying to figure out, to the nanometer and the attosecond, where and when an event in awareness takes place. It relates to the measurement problem in physics. What causes a system's multiple possible states to randomly collapse into a definite state? In meditation, this time lag is observable and directly related to our ethical practice. In meditation, we notice the arising and subsiding of desires. However, the transformation of desires from negative to positive, as is practiced in Raja Yoga, requires a lot of skill and is not easy. Swami Sarvayoga Priyananda explains it as thus. He says, we're not really thinking. Thoughts bubble up from inside somewhere, and then we act. The path, according to him, Swami Sarvapriyananda, he says, the path of Kama Yoga is more powerful than the watching of desires arise and subside in meditation, because, he says, we are ordinary people. For most of us, we require external struggle. We need to do something in the world to change ourselves, not just watching the rising and falling of desires. We need to do something in the world to change ourselves. That is why work is there, and that is why samsara is there. Desires which drive us to success, the desires which drive us to success and wealth, are also spiritual, because it slowly leads to transformation. If you do it consciously, if you do this consciously, it is called Kama Yoga. If you do this in service, unselfishly, the transformation of desire is much faster. Life eats life is translated then as I do this so that others may live. Right? So there's a tweaking of a truth. Well, the truth is not tweaked, the experience is tweaked. Life eats life is translated towards I do this so that others may live. That statement, I do this so that others may live, is a great Native American wisdom. That's how they say it. In yoga, in the Yoga Sutras, we talk about the yamas and the niyamas, but I won't develop those notions here. So in meditation, the transformation of desires happens as follows. The cycle of vitris, of thoughts and samskaras rotate day and night. So this thing that we are in, this conditioning, these tendencies, they rotate day and night. our thoughts are, we are not really thinking our thoughts. They bubble up from somewhere, and then we put them into action. If I decide to raise my hand, before I did it, I thought it. But if I look very carefully, the decision whether I raise my hand or not, somehow there is a subtle impulse coming up from unknown depths, like a little bubble coming up from deep inside a lake. And when it comes to the surface, it becomes noticeable. It becomes an impulse, raise your hands. I did not actually think it. That's the point. It bubbles up from inside. Then it takes possession of us. Then you make it a conscious thought. And then you say something or you do something. Right? That's that time lag situation. So what can meditation do? These thoughts which are bubbling up from inside, they come from our tendencies. Now, why, we can say, why do particular thoughts, particular desires, particular patterns of thinking come up? Maybe some people say, I get very depressed. That's a pattern of thinking. We have tendencies operating in our psyche, inherited from our past years, past lives' conditionings, and often these tendencies, and this is an important statement, often these tendencies are called forward by external circumstances. One way of understanding that our tendencies are called forward by external circumstances is the way we say, well, that person brings the best out of me, and that person absolutely brings the worst out of me. You know, we all have these experiences. So as they bubble up, right, these impulses, as they bubble up, there is a small window of opportunity where the tendency, where it comes up to the surface, and before it becomes an expressed thought at the surface of the mind, there is a point, according to the Raja Yogis, there is a point where you can assent to it or you can say no. That window is very small, and we miss it all the time. We mostly function on default. Whatever is bubbling up from the inside takes control. And some of us try to use willpower, but willpower does not usually work. Another very important statement. Some of us try to use willpower, but willpower does not usually work. Why? Because you may control it once, but the next time it's more powerful. Swami Sarvapriyananda says, control it once, fail twice. Why does it fail? Because already it has become an expressed thought at the level of the mind. Then there is a lot of psychic energy in it. If it has come up with that amount of psychic energy in it, and then you have to press it back down, there is a lot of psychic energy required to do that. Now, what meditation does is that it makes you aware that before it has become expressed at the surface of the mind, when it bubbles up from the seed form, from the unknown depths, that's where you have this tiny window of conscious choice. Do I allow it? Is it positive? Is it helpful to my goals in life? And that is where you can then make that decision. But as said, that window is very small. Now, if you entertain this vritti in the mind, and then it subsides, right? You catch it at the seed form and it subsides again. It does not disappear. It goes back and strengthens or weakens that samsara, right? So when you catch a negative one, you manage to transform it in that tiny window, it goes back, and that tendency now becomes stronger rather than the other one. That's the whole idea. The samsaras are rotating day and night throughout conscious and unconscious life. Even in dreams they rotate. And that's why we talk about recurring dreams. So what meditation does, the Raja Yogi, in that instant of opportunity, as the vritti is forming, before there is an investment of psychic energy in it, the yogi can see it, substitute this default mode and let it subside back down. The angry impulse is let go and is transformed into a peaceful impulse, and that impulse will now strengthen that samsara. In this way, our tendencies are transformed. And this is important. What we think we should do, we now want to do. In spiritual life, we work with the struggle until the inner conditionings change. Now, to go back to the start, where Vivekananda proposes the goal of our lives, which is freedom. This journey, right, to freedom, the experience of freedom, is not a journey and is a journey at the same time. So that's a difficult one to get as well. Well, not difficult, but it is both. The journey from karma, samsara, to freedom, moksha, is and is not a journey, right? So remember that Vivekananda said, right, that this human body is the greatest in the universe, and the human being is the greatest being. Man is higher than all animals and all angels. None is greater than men. Even the devas will have to come down again and attain salvation through a human body. Man alone attains to perfection, not even the devas. The angels nor the devas can attain to direct freedom without human birth. Talk about preciousness and that it is possible, right? So what is this freedom? For the human being, life is a series of experiences. All our knowledge is based on experience. We are the sum total of all our experiences since we were born. We are who we are because of our experiences since our birth and the interpretation we gave to those experiences. This is what makes you who you are today. We are subjects experiencing objects caught up in the web of karma or samsara. But Vivekananda says that there are truths of all sages, of all countries, of all ages, of men pure and unselfish, who declare that they have found some higher truth than what the senses can bring, and they invite verification. A higher truth is that we are the sum total of all our experiences since creation took form, right? For eternity. Since creation took form. This explains maybe talents that you may have now that you know did not come from your parents. You are the sum total of your experiences since the first movement, since the moment that you separated from source, because we are one. If you understand that we are one infinite mind, endlessly expanding through the physical and spiritual realms, limitless, then we understand that this physical world is an appearance. We are one infinite mind. We are God in individual form expressing itself through the physical realms, through the physical senses, which makes us one. We are the individuality of God. And just as an aside here, our job then is to make a verb of our name. My Miriam, who introduced the presentation here, her job in the world is to Miriam, in the world. My job is to Marlene in the world. My brother's job is to Ben in the world. You know, if you make a verb of your name, that's your job. That's what you bring to this creation. While our experience is fragmented, we are the absolute, even though we are ignorant of it. And it's because of this ignorance that we suffer. All misery comes from fear, from unsatisfied desire. When man discovers that he never dies, then the fear of death vanishes. When he knows that he is perfect, all vain desires vanish, and there will be bliss, even while in this body. So what is this process of freedom? And this is the point that I want to say, right? The process of freedom happens in a flash. There is an insight, you understand something, right? And after that flash of insight, then you practice what you've understood, right? So the seeing clearly happens in a flash, and then there is the practice of living it. Our ethical life changes from I should to a spontaneous I want. Krishnamurti puts it this way. People, he says, this quote, people throughout the world seem to think that freedom is the fruit of prolonged discipline. To see clearly, he says, is its own discipline. To see clearly is its own discipline. Freedom is not at the end of discipline, but the flash of seeing brings its own discipline. The two go together inseparably. When you separate them, there is conflict. To overcome this conflict, the action of will comes into being and breeds more conflict. So freedom is at the beginning and not at the end. The beginning is the end. And then I want to finish this presentation with I consider a very helpful statement from Swami Vivekananda, again in this book Raja Yoga. He says, it is important to think of your own body and see it as strong and healthy. It is the best instrument we have. With this body, we will cross the ocean of life. Freedom is never to be reached by the weak, he says. Throw away all weakness. Tell your body that it is strong and have unbounded faith and hope in yourself. So that's the presentation. I stop sharing my screen, stop share, voila. I think we go back to Miriam. Is that correct? Yeah. So Miriam, you have to unmute yourself.
Of course. So do I get where is the box, the chat box? That's my problem, not to find that on my, I have it. Okay. So has anyone anything to ask? So far I'm not seeing many messages. The PowerPoint is not following. That's fine. It was fine. It was just, you didn't put everything up on the PowerPoint.
Yeah, maybe I can have one comment or a thing about this a flash of understanding where the freedom starts, and this question of jet lag between the situation and the thing of it. So can it be linked with some kind of instinct which is totally outside of any reasoning and strict thoughts and so on, or also of the intuition, the kind of a godlike intuition. Sometimes things happen to us, and it is not instinct because we are reacting to something. It is not reason because we have not been thinking about something, and it just goes. And
Yes,
as you said, so
yes, it's that exactly. I wouldn't necessarily go by instinct, because instinct is pure conditioning.
yeah.
That you see that with I saw that with my dogs when they got together. It happened like that, bang.
Yeah.
It was there was no time lag there.
Yeah, it's a reaction with adrenaline and so on. I was speaking about intuition.
But your intuition is it. Yeah, there is. You do a practice like we all do, and then while we're not thinking about the practice, bang, we have this illuminating experience, and that then informs our lives. We know it for sure. There is not a shadow of a doubt, and it generates our practice. That is exactly that flash. That is exactly what it is. Yeah.
Could I ask something?
Yes, yes.
You painted this picture of us living between an axis of evil and good, and it just came to me when I was listening to that we have to live within that, and to exist in that good and evil and find our way. But then if we try too hard in either way, from what you're saying, it doesn't always work. So there is no way of finding the perfect anything. Am I right? You just have to. I'm not expressing it very well, but it just came to me.
Exactly. There is, as long as we work, we are caught in that web, right?
Yeah.
But there is a moment of freedom, right? And it's very much explained in the Yoga Sutras, right? There is a moment of freedom where that flash of insight happens, and your action is no longer motivated by desire.
Okay.
Your action is there's no more motivation, right? Motivation disappears. The action doesn't disappear. The motivation disappears. And what is acted is what is necessary in front of you. It's done willingly, spontaneously, happily, in service, because it presents itself.
Yeah, there are those moments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people are sending their thanks to you, Marlene. Jeanette said she found that a very interesting talk. And Karen is saying, really enjoyed your talk. Liked the idea of your name being a verb and how you action in the world. It's a nice tool actually to think of your name being a verb. Yeah. That's quite. Yeah.
And can I make a comment? Hi, it's Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Hi. I found that concept of tuning into the same thought vibration or the same vibration that may come from anywhere in time. I presume as well from the past, people can also tune into the future, as in what is time. That's fascinating, and it makes so much sense as well when we think of the other. When you think of mediums, or you think of people with premonitions, or that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to me, from what so it emphasizes the importance of keeping a clean mind, and that's where the yamas and the niyamas come in. Just keep your space clean, because then that's its own protection.
And I presume also that like having that quietness, or that stillness to actually hear, comes from the meditation practice. you know, from that practice.
Yeah.
Hey, Marlene.
A lot of food for thought, Marlene.
There. Hello.
I just wanted to add that I seem to feel that what's sort of at a core or a base of all of the practice is this Sanskrit word spanda, which is vibration, right? And there's a book I'm reading right now, which is about Kashmirian Shaivism, which is all about vibration. And I haven't read it yet, but it seems like that's the sort of bridge between our physical consciousness and maybe a consciousness that's more subtle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And how we can access some vibrations and not others. That's very interesting.
Yes.
That's why I work on having a chill yoga vibe.
Yeah.
We need a bit of passion now and again.
Thank you very much.
Marlene, could I just, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi,
Yeah.
hello.
Hi. I just wanted to just go back to what Miriam was saying. You know, you were talking about the freedom that happens. Why do you think that it can happen to some people and not to others? And is it because of the work or the intention that you've been putting in all along?
Yes. Absolutely. I think the flashes of insight, we're potentially open to these flashes of insight, all of us, and that's why Vivekananda says we're going back to the absolute whether we want it or not. You know, it's not even a question, right? We're going to get there, but our own intent, our own going. Yes, I want to understand something, will facilitate the flash of insight, right? Our practices before the flash of insight facilitate the flash of insight. Once the flash of insight has happened, the willpower is no longer necessary. There is a spontaneous willingness. There is a spontaneous willingness to do the work. You know, there's no longer, I'm doing this for, you just do it because it presents itself. And the flash of insight facilitates that substantially.
And then I think, you know, people in life, something dramatic or traumatic happens.
Yes.
Even if they weren't looking for or to follow that path, sometimes that can happen as well.
Completely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And also, I liked very much your referring to the Big Bang theory, of which I am also a big fan. And I wonder whether you had a chance to read or to look at the three bodies problem, which is also an astounding illustration of the link between karma and freedom. This is also on the Netflix, but it is initially a very an excellent science fiction book.
Okay, no, I didn't.
Okay, I'll send you the references and you can have a look because it's all about it.
What is it again, Catherine?
The three bodies problem.
The three bodies.
Like three, the figure three, number three.
Yeah, three. Yeah.
The three bodies problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So we've lots of people saying, Katie Armstrong said, nice to think of positive thought waves traveling like light waves and then joining up. Also that with this body, you will cross the ocean of life. Love to hear your words, Marlene. And then there's Ursula. Do you know Ursula? Thank you very much for this exciting presentation, Marlene. My ears were opened wide. Lucia, thank you so much for your talk. Very interesting and added a deeper aha. I like that aha moment.
The flash of insight. Yeah.
I remember teaching once and walking down the room and turning. I've told this to loads of people, and turning on my, you walk down to the end and you turn on your foot. And I looked at my right foot, and instantly this in my head said, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly where I want to be.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that was just that. I'm looking at a foot, I'm not looking at a foot. But
Yes. Yes.
It's just astounding. Yeah.
The rightness of your existence revealed itself in that moment.
Yeah. Took me till I was nearly 40 to discover that.
Could I say something?
Yes.
Hello. I would just like to express my gratitude for organizing this lecture. Thank you very much. And also express the gratitude that we are now 2 teachers from Sweden participating.
Oh, welcome.
So welcome to Lucia. I've seen some of you before. I've been in France the last 40 years almost, but now moved up to Sweden. And I hope that one day maybe we will have a yoga school in Sweden into the European standards.
That would be wonderful. That would really be wonderful. And the trick to that, to tell you, is for somebody in Sweden to come to the European Union of Yoga Zinal Congress in August for a week, and then you can meet everybody and talk to them and find out all about it. Your name is Anna?
My name is Anna. I went to Evian School in Yoga de l'Énergie with my master, Yves Mongeard, that left us many years ago.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for your input. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's karma.
Maybe we'll see you in Zinal. Would be really nice.
Miriam, I would like to comment on that last comment that came up in the chat.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, show it again.
I find it very scary to think of the vibrations being sent out by IDF soldiers in Gaza and others around the world.
Well,
Joan has expressed that, and she has a particular interest in that.
Yeah, well, see, we are at the receiving end of everything, right? The good and the bad, right? And we will receive it at the level of our own vibration. We are actually, and this is also true, we are to a certain extent immune to evil, because our own vibration doesn't allow it. Right? So if I keep myself like that's why I always when people say, oh yeah, you have to respect the boundary and you have to protect yourself, I go, no, there is no need for protection, because we're continuously bombarding, but your own frequency is the protection. Your own clean thought, your own clean being, yourself, you are your own protection. So it's and if the suffering, this vibration suffering hits your own being, the only response in this being then is compassion. It is not at all affected by the evilness of it, because we are open. The only response is compassion for the poor being who's in the throes of this awful conditioning at that time. So there is no need for fear at all.
Yeah. And that came from Joan. Joan, do you want to say anything there? No?
Yes, your own frequency is your protection, compassion, love, that. Yes, that's it. Yeah, well, I mean, I just that up, but just that. Yes. Yeah,
thank you for that. Can you hear me? I've got headphones on, so I don't know.
Okay.
It just was to think of that going out into the universe, do you know what I mean? And time lag and when it's going to come back, like maybe the whole Trump thing is something coming back to that frequency. I don't know. It's just that whole vibration out there scares me, where it will land in the future as well, do you know?
Yeah, but your intent, we are super powerful, right? We are super powerful in our own ability to arrange our to keep ourselves clean, right? And if it is your job, to do something about it, it will arrive. It will present itself in front of you. we cannot stop what's going to happen at all. It will happen, right? So whatever will happen. But your only responsibility is to respond when it's in front of you. If it's not in front of you, you don't need to respond.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Karen, for your comment. Your own frequency is your protection. Well done. Margaret Taylor, can it be said that all thoughts exist as time is a man-made concept? If so, when is it just a matter of which ones we tune into?
Well, yes, yes, they rotate, the tendencies rotate. Yeah. I'm not quite, it is always the ones that you tune into, you know, the ones that you're open for.
Yeah, I think that's what is it. So it is just a matter of which ones we tune into. But does that imply choice?
Well, I've explained that situation of choice.
Yeah. So any more questions or comments? Nice comments. Thank you.
I would just like to thank you, Marlene.
Why are you sitting there completely naked?
Where are they?
Not completely. We're in La Gomera, and it was so important that we leave the beach and tune into you, Marlene.
Thank you.
And I just want to honor you. I think this is 2025. I think we first met probably around 1995, and I've known you for 30 years. And this 1 hour is such a distillation of so much work that you do, Marlene. So many sacred inspirational texts that you read, and you have this incredible capacity to distill all that information and bring something forward that makes me a better person. And you definitely facilitate the possibility of my own flash and my own action into that freedom space. So I really just want to express so much gratitude and to encourage you to keep Marlening, because you do it better than anybody else.
Well done.
Thank you.
Lots of love. Lots of love.
Thank you.
We're expressing pure freedom by being here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow. That sums it all up, Marlene.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So I don't think there are any more questions, any more comments now. And I do think Claire has summed that all up very, very well. Thank you, Marlene, so much for helping us to understand quite complex points, but also to make it easy for us to keep moving through this world we live in. And are you happy now?
I'm happy now, yes. And what I want to say is also, right, at the level of not choice, right, the amount of times that I wanted to choose not to do this.
No, you weren't getting away with that.
I wasn't getting away with it. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Marlene.
All right.
Idiot. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you.
having their comments, because it's nice to hear what you have to say. And yeah, really good. Thank you all. So well done, Marlene. And thank you to Catherine for all the help from the EUI getting us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Marlene. Bye-bye.
Bye.